ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, excuse the it turns out if you look at what happened in 2014, it was an unbelievable banner year for Israeli technology. And it shouldn't have worked out that way unless you actually understand what goes on in the Israel ecosystem. 2014 was the year that Israel went to war. 50 days of thousands of missiles shot at the country. To remind you, we had our international airport shut down for over 24 hours. We'd had a political crisis leading to elections. And yet, 2014 broke all records. Start with the amount of investment that was made in Israeli tech companies. Almost 700 startups got $3.4 billion. That's a big number, by the way. A bigger number than all of the charity that comes to Israel, and a bigger number than the U.S. military aid for the first time. But what's more impressive, it was up 46% from 2013, thus proving the thesis that in Israel, we take our cues from Wall Street and from Sand Hill Road, not from Ramallah or Gaza. If you look at what's happening to the companies that are being invested in, they are going public like never before. Last year was the year of the Israeli IPO. 20 new IPOs, the majority on Wall Street. Israel is still that fourth planet in terms of the number of companies that are traded there behind the US, China, and Canada. It makes perfect sense to us Israelis. It's a freaky poster to everybody else. Okay, what is Israel doing there? But we who are here at this conference do understand what's going on. If you look at what happened in the M&A area, Israel had another banner year, 70 different transactions. Okay, $15 billion of activity. And in fact, the average exit price has gone up dramatically to the right. Last year, for the first time, it went over $200 million. Remember the days when they used to criticize us? So you guys do startups really well, but little itty-bitty ones. Not so itty-bitty anymore. $200 million is a manly or a womanly, okay, number, okay, for a good startup, especially if you're getting in at an early stage. Okay, the deal size has just grown dramatically. And of course, we have to thank for it, probably what opened up this whole chapter, were the guys from Waze who did a great deal of $1 billion. But it turns out that there's a million, literally 10 companies that have had in the last 2-year period a $1 billion exit. What happened to those little itty-bitty companies? 10 $1 billion exits? And what's interesting is that they're not just IPOs, they're M&As, increasingly taking companies public like the guys from Infinity did with Shellcase in Shanghai, Rakuten coming in, buying Viber for $1 billion from Japan. This is a very, very interesting picture. If you look at the granddaddy of them all, the one that really proves the point, it's Mobileye. Okay, not only because I'm very proud as a Jerusalemite that this is a Yerushalmi company, and Amnon Shashua deserves a great deal of support and kudos, okay, for what he's done in terms of building this company. Remember, these guys went public in the middle of the war. Despite people who sort of raise their eyebrows and say, how do you do a big Israeli IPO in the middle of the war? Well, what an IPO it was. It was up 50% on the first day of trading. It's just simply a huge, huge company. If you look at these are, by the way, the lists of all the other Israeli IPOs that were done. We had our first IPO with our crowd, a company called Rewalk, which was very, very well received. CyberArk, which is now today a $1.5 billion company. And there are more coming, right? In other words, we just saw the last day or so that SolarEdge was filed for $1.4 billion. So this is not over. This is just getting beginning. And what's happening now is there really is a sense in the country that people are building bigger companies, more patient, okay, looking for the bigger exit. And we'll talk about what those trends are and why that's happening going forward. Part of it is the cavalcade of serial entrepreneurs. We are blessed in Israel now with a bunch of guys and gals who have done this over and over and over again. And it makes the venture capitalists and angel investors and even the crowdfunders among us drool. Because when you get a guy like Shlomo Kramer, God willing, you should give me a call, okay, to show up in your office, okay, saying, hey, I I would like you to fund my next deal, you've got to be brain dead not to do it. Right? The guy's got a trifecta of $3 billion companies, Checkpoint and Perva, and now Trusteer. How smart do you have to be to make an investment with a Shlomo Kramer? Okay, or any of the other guys. And my favorite picture here is Victor Willens, okay, who his first company was a $4 billion exit at Galileo and now sold Annapurna to Amazon for almost 400. But we also have another trend happening in the ecosystem, which is now comes the private equity. In Israel, remember, venture capital is relatively new. Right? The first venture fund was set up in '86, the Athena Fund. For 6 years, it was the only venture fund. 1992, we started with the Yozma process. So we're really a little bit over 22, 23 years with venture capital. We've virtually had no PE in the country. But that's changing big time. All of the major PE players in the world are coming to Israel. They're writing $20, $30, $50 million checks and beyond. And that's, again, good news for growing bigger companies with more patience and more stability. If you look at who's on the ground now with the multinational invasion, right? This is an invasion, by the way, we want to welcome. I put up there Baruch haba, which in Hebrew means welcome. Okay, this is an invasion we like. Okay, please come. But what's happening basically is all these companies are buying Israeli companies. When you look at the 70 different M&A exits, it turns out now that these companies are doing incredible work. Apple, who wasn't really that present in Israel, now has opened up their R&D center. It's their second center in the world. Okay? Intel just made a huge further investment in Israel of $6 billion. $6 billion new dollars in Israel. Okay? They got a great deal in terms of taxation and also a grant. I heard a joke that one of the Intel people was complaining that they didn't negotiate hard enough. And someone asked him, said, well, why didn't you got a great deal. What was wrong with your negotiation? He said, that symbol of the state of Israel with the menorah? We should have got on the lower right-hand side, Intel inside, okay, on that one. But the bottom line is Israel's inside Intel for sure. If you look at what's happening, there's a huge wave now of Asian activity focused on Israel. And it's not just China, which is perhaps the most active. But for example, if you look at Korea, Samsung last year alone made 8 investments in Israel. 8 venture capital investments. Okay, you look at Rakuten coming in and buying, Viber. You look at, the first Israeli IPO in Shanghai with Shellcase. What's going on in Singapore in their stock market looking for Israeli listings. India's Infosys bought, Panaya and opening up their research center. So really there's a huge trend towards Asia. And these are some of the active participants. You'll learn more about it through the conference in terms of Chinese companies who are literally in our office, at our crowd. We're seeing them almost every day. We've set up now like a little mini auditorium because these delegations are big. They don't come with 1 or 2. They come in mass. Okay, and it's very, very exciting. If you look at Mr. Lee Ka-shing at Horizon Ventures, and by the way, this slide is out of date. It turns out that Mr. Lee, I just got it from Gilad, he's around here somewhere, who said that they have 29 investments in Israel. Asia's smartest investor, okay, reputed to be one of the wealthiest men in Asia, has 29 investments in Israel, far more than he has in North America. And of course, was an investor in Waze and other companies. If you look at what happened just this week with Alibaba reporting an investment in JVP and what they're doing in the cyber, it's huge and big, and this is part of this overall Asia trend, which is extremely important. And it's being powered, by the way, by a lot of young people. It turns out that young people are showing up as interns and as students. This is a picture of Amy, who was an intern at our crowd. We've had over a dozen Asian students as interns. We welcome others. If any of you in the audience have relatives, want to send them to us, send them. We want interns at our crowd. And if you ask yourself, well, is this going to continue? Or is this sort of a one-trick pony? I can make the prediction very, very confidently that Israel is going to get stronger in the world of technology over the next several years. And the reason I can make that with confidence is that the kinds of things that us as venture and technology investors are looking for, they're now coming into our home court. In Hebrew we call it a migrash beiti, into our wheelhouse. It turns out We were never very good with pet stores online or toys online, but when you come to hard technology, such as the Internet of Things, or big data, or drones, or machine vision, or medical devices, you're playing our game now. Okay? And so where Israel has been important until now, it's going to be far more important in the next 5 and 10 years, given where the world of technology is moving. And if you look at what I think is going to be a big element, is that Israeli entrepreneurs are now going to tackle the elephant in the room, which is the fact that until now, most of us as entrepreneurs and investors have dealt with the problems of rich people. Let's face it, in Silicon Valley, also sometimes in Herzliya, it's like we're in a house of mirrors, right? The problems we deal with are the problems of us and our colleagues. But how many of us as entrepreneurs are looking at the problems of the planet? The other 5 billion people who need solutions for water and power and food. And my prediction is you're going to see a whole host of Israeli companies going after that, not just some kind of airy-fairy, let's feel good, kumbaya kind of social impact thing, but this is going to be good business. And it's going to have a multiple bottom line, where we are going to create profits, we are going to put people to work, and we're going to go do things for the planet. And if you look at that in solar, where Israel just inaugurated the largest solar plant in Africa, 8% of Rwanda's electricity now being produced by a little Jerusalem company. Okay, just turned it on. Not much news, but it's happening. Or what's going on in terms of refrigerating vaccines for African villages, or providing mobile payment solutions, or exporting the Moshav concept to Africa. There is so much going to happen in this area, it's going to blow your minds. So just a few words about what I'm doing at our crowd in the world of crowdfunding. Because it turns out that among all the other great things that are happening in Israel, we are leading the world in equity crowdfunding. Right now, when you think of crowdfunding, you think of people throwing money at songs or at new movies, okay, getting a t-shirt as a reward. It's a hell of a reward. Okay? Unfortunately, the people who backed Mr. Palmer Luckey, who did Oculus, right, which was sold for $2 million to Facebook, they gave him $2.4 million on Kickstarter. They got a t-shirt. They got nothing. Well, the new future is going to be equity crowdfunding. And we started our crowd 2 years ago. We now are the world's leading equity crowdfunding platform. We're beating all the guys in Silicon Valley. We're way ahead. And it's because basically of people like yourselves. It's the strength of this ecosystem. Because what better way to connect all the thousands of investors and companies and entrepreneurs around the world who want to connect to the Israeli ecosystem than to do it through crowdfunding. And if you look at our model, we try to combine both the best of angel investing with the best of venture. We're professional-like ventures. We do diligence. We curate this stuff. We take care of your legal. And we also give you the freedom of being an angel. So we like to say that we sort of click all the boxes, but this came out sort of weird. I haven't seen it look this way. Okay. But in any event, it's a hybrid of venture capital and crowdfunding. We look at thousands of companies a year. We research the best. We invest our own money. And then we open the deals to the crowd. And if you look at our stats, they're pretty impressive, I think. We basically invested over $110 million in now 62 companies over a 2-year period. This year, we publicly announced that we're going to do more than $120 million of additional investment in the year of 2015. And we want to grow this very, very hard. We're looking for more members, for partners. We're delighted with the people we co-invest with. We co-invest with people like General Electric and others who are here who've done a great job with us. We have an unbelievable portfolio. I see about 6 of our entrepreneurs in the audience. And again, I want to thank Ziv and this whole team at Landmark, because this is the greatest show in town relative to Israel. This is the place it's happening. And you're very, very lucky to be here. Thanks, Ziv, for giving me the opportunity to start. I think the next year is going to be great. I think the next decade is going to be great. The one thing that can screw us up, okay, and there are things that can screw us up, is if we fight among each other. Okay, if you look at what happened with this election campaign in Israel, it was an outrage, a horror show, in terms of people hating each other and arguing. And we got to put this behind us. Okay, business is simply too important to let the politics get in the way. And we as a people, and as our friends in the outside world, need to pull together and to show that we can continue to have this kind of results in the next year. So thank you very much, and have a great day.